Conservatives brought in permitted development back in 2012, allowing offices and shops to be converted into flats. Will permitted development be axed with a Labour government? That is the topic on today's show here on Property Answers. It is the election special for Property Answers. And I'm joined by John and Ranjan here, the best in the industry. You've probably seen them on the Sky Television as well. How are you today?
I'm ready.
You're ready to go on this one?
ready to go.
There's so much to talk about on housing, planning, renting,
exciting times.
In this election.
Absolutely.
I might even agree with Ranjan on one or two points on this one. I might do.
Don't forget to like and subscribe to this video and leave your comments below. Right, let's get going then. John?
Ranjan?
Well, I think...
He's the PD king, isn't he?
I think the concept of urban brownfield redevelopment and repurposing is here to stay. The fact is we have more offices and shops than we need, and there's got to be an alternative use for those. Now, the issue is whether a Labour government are happy with the label permitted development, which the Tories brought in 2012, or whether they want to rebadge it and add in a few flavours and nuances of their own.
Right.
So it's not going, but I'm sure it'll be renamed and there'll be some nuances in there.
I have to agree with Ranjan.
Hooray!
I know.
You're the first.
Yes.
It hurts me to admit it. In terms of, no new government's going to want to copy the government's been before, especially one they hate and who's kept them out of government for 14, 15 years. So they're going to rebrand it. But the problem is with a rebrand, that won't just be enough for them. They will give it a twist. And I think one of the big twists, and we have to remember this, that they are a socialist government, socialist party. They do not like people owning their own homes particularly, and certainly not more than one home. So Ranjan's super unpopular.
Oh dear.
And they, I'm sure, will bring in social housing for PD. So they will say if you're building 10, if you're converting 10 into, offices into 10 flats, then 30% of them or 50% of them or whatever it will be will have to be for social housing. And that will decimate the value of these projects, decimate the value because you get no profit out of the ones you're doing for social housing.
Yeah, I agree on that one.
That's going to be very, very interesting. It's going to be what level that's applied to. Of course, there's permitted development, say, to put 2 flats above a disused shop. Now, it'd be ludicrous if you had to build 2 flats and one of them social housing. That would just make it unprofitable.
It may hurt you. It may hurt you. It'll break your heart. But remember, Cambridge, places like Cambridge, Oxford, London, parts of London. You know this. It's 50% social housing now. 50%.
No, but not in PD at the moment.
There's none in PD. Permissive development is zero.
Yes.
And we should have stated that, I suppose.
Yes.
But of course, that will change. It's got to change.
And at the moment, I mean, of course, on 5th of March 2024, there were some important changes to PD because they scrapped the upper floor limit. It used to be there was a 1,500 square metre floor limit on what you could repurpose.
Oh, right.
So that after 5th of March. If you had a massive 40,000 square foot office building and you want to repurpose it into a couple of hundred flats, you're good to go with no social housing provision whatsoever. And I think the social housing is one aspect they'll bring in. I think the other thing they'll bring in is dwelling mix. Because at the moment, as a PD developer, I can choose the dwelling mix I want to build. So if I'm doing rental, I might decide that the optimal rental unit in this area are 1-bedroom flats. So that's all I'll build. But the socialists will say, no, doesn't mind what the market wants. You have to build 5 3-bedroom units for families, 5 2-bedroom for this and that and the other, and they will tell you what you should build. And that means an altogether less profitable scheme.
They might even force you to do a scheme for emergency accommodation.
Oh, right.
Because emergency accommodation, these councils are in a terrible mess. They've got nowhere to put people. They're putting them up in travel lodges and all sorts of things. And they might give you an incentive potentially to design it for emergency accommodation for local authorities.
John, that's the worst scaremongering I've heard. I've actually been through a little bit of the Labour manifesto, and there's no mention of that anywhere.
Well, of course there isn't. There's not going to be.
But you're just saying, oh, they might do this, might do that, scaring everyone into thinking they could, come along and grab your granny kind of thing.
Yeah.
Then there's no mention that they're going to do that.
Of course there isn't. They want to get in, but once they're in, have you heard of a wolf in lamb's clothing? That's what it is. They're disagreeing to everything at the moment. But once they're in with a big majority, they can do whatever they want, and no one is going to stop them. No one.
That is a little bit of a worry. We just have to hope that they're a little bit centre right as opposed to hard left when they.
Things will definitely change with permissive development, and it may be they scrap it altogether, of course.
I don't think they'll scrap it altogether.
Well, you're hoping they don't.
No, they won't, because I
the
think
gravy train might stop.
Well, when one door closes, another door opens. On
the other hand, your retirement age, you just might as well just give up.
Yeah, no, I always want to do something. I enjoy what I do. You don't retire from what you enjoy. Now, I'll always find something to do, and there's always doors that open. So I don't really believe in that. But it's one thing them doing all these social housing provisions and contributions that you've got to make. But each year, of course, the building regulations get more stringent on what you have to do.
Yes. Yeah.
Which is this is a topic for a whole other episode actually, because even though we're out of the EU, they talk about having following European directives on building regulations.
It's bonkers.
But I was out in Greece last week. I saw a lot of building going on. I didn't see any of the things being followed.
Well, that's why we're not in Europe anymore, because basically everyone in Europe, apart from us, does exactly what they want when they want, and Muggins, Great Britain, adhere to every single rule.
But my point being is that although my fear for permitted development is that although it might be on paper allowed to repurpose defunct commercial buildings, that social housing provision coupled with ever toughening building regulations and the inability to appeal against Section 106 social housing demands just make schemes unviable. Right. And you see this office block sitting on a corner and it's just deserted and unused and derelict, when it could be valuable homes for loads and loads of people. It just sits there and rots.
But we have to remember, and we're very pro-permissive development, of course we are, but there's a lot of opposition to it amongst professionals, especially architects, planning officers, planning authorities, because a lot of the early ones were considered slums of the future.
Oh, really?
Nicknamed slums of the future, because you didn't have to do anything to the outside of them. So they still look like office blocks, although they are flats. And some of them were very, very big schemes which have not let well or sold well going forward, and have a number of issues with them 10 years later. So I think there will be opposition to permissive development.
There we go. Great answers. And we'd love to hear from you too, viewers, on your thoughts about this subject as well. Do comment below. Don't forget to like and subscribe to this channel as well, and also tick that bell and you'll be notified by all of our videos coming your way soon, right here on Property Answers.